this story at this moment with these two?
Well, the fact is I was invited in. I mean, Salman and Eliza were, had this footage and were wondering what to do with it. They thought maybe they would make a film about it, and then decided that they wanted a different perspective to use it and to shape it into a film. So I saw some of the footage. We had a meeting. We got on very well, and I had a kind of a rough plan, and so I started. But I mean, the fact of the matter was, sort of like the Jerry Maguire routine. They had me at Salman Rushdie.
I thought he said, "Show me the money."
Salman and Eliza, I would imagine in a certain way it might be easier not to make a documentary, and yet here we are. So maybe share with us, if you're able, a little bit about the conversation the two of you had, the path that led you to Alex, and ultimately being so willing to be so brave to open up your lives at such a harrowing and potentially overwhelming moment.
I never expected to show that part of my body. I'm a novelist.
That's funny.
No, what happened was that, as you saw, very soon after it became likely that I was going to survive, I suggested to Eliza that we should make some kind of a record. And we had no sense of it being a film that would be at the Sundance Festival. It was just for ourselves. And I thought she'd just take a couple of snaps on her iPhone, but because she's actually a very good cinematographer, as you just saw, she thought that wasn't good enough, so she sent for her professional cameras. And we started making film. And she wouldn't let me see it for many, many weeks. Because she thought it would be too upsetting for me to see what I actually looked like. She was right. When I finally was at home and feeling much better, there was a day when you suggested that it might be time, and set up a projector and a screen, and we sat there together and watched it. And that was the moment at which we thought maybe this footage is good enough to be worth being seen by more people. And at that point, we began to think about who might be the person. And we reached out we were both of us, great admirer of the work that Alex has done for so long. And when we met him, it was kind of, I don't know, sort of love at first sight. But also, it wasn't just that we got on as people, it was also that Alex had a kind of beginning of a vision for the film. And we thought, yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing we would like it to be. And so we trusted him, and I hope you agree that the trust was justified.
So you bring Alex in, you have this footage. Take us to the next conversation, or the next phase in the process, the kinds of conversations you had about Salman or Alex, or Eliza, what was in bounds, what was out of bounds? Did you have to set up any guardrails for yourselves to start the process?
No.
Or did you feel like...
I mean, to be honest, there weren't any guardrails, which was the scariest thing of all, maybe. I mean, I came into this as Salman was just starting, or in the middle of writing the memoir, Knife.
Yeah.
And so, and that would become, over time, a central part of the film. But I think the idea was that the notion I pitched was something in line with a TV series I had seen many years before called The Singing Detective by Dennis Potter. And that was about somebody who had a horrible episode of psoriatic myopathy and was in the hospital, and the simple story is he recovered. But in the meantime, there were flights of fancy and sort of running in the mind back and forth between memories of childhood, between bits and pieces of the detective fiction that he had written. And so it was a sense of a simple story wrapped in a much more interesting and complex and emotional story that has to do with how almost your life is passing before your eyes. So it was with that at least first idea, that's how I started forward. And then Salman was writing the book, and then I saw the book. I thought, oh my God, the book is so incredible. And so it was a kind of call and response in that sense.
Yeah, I think of them as kind of siblings. Books do what books can do, and movies do what movies can do.
I also think too, not to have guardrails, you can't be half vulnerable. You have to really walk toward being vulnerable, and I think for me and also for Salman, our trust in Alex meant to offer everything. You can't just half do this kind of film. So it was easy to walk toward Alex with all of the footage and trust and a lot of feelings, but know that ultimately it was going towards someone who would treat it with care and their own artistry and mastery as a filmmaker. So that felt it felt safe, although there's no point where at any moment in this footage, I never felt safe making any of the footage. It just felt like this intimacy. I mean, when we were in the trauma ward, it wasn't like, let's make a film. It was, what's gonna happen to us? How did this happen to us? And here we are in this moment, and we can have a dance party and put on Bob Dylan and have a date night, and also, deal with some of the harder aspects.
I think for me, of your vision of the film, Alex, the bit that was most question mark for me was going all the way back to 1989 and rehashing that. So I thought, we had that.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. But then I think the fact is that it was so long ago that many people watching the film would not really have a clear memory of what happened then. And if you don't understand what happened then, you don't understand what happened now.
Yeah, the fact is we had our own experience of that. I mean, when we were looking through the archive, we were discovering and kind of astounded because we had already forgotten just how vast the reaction was. And also, frankly, connecting to our present moment, how violence unleashed by an irresponsible political leader could spread out of control.
I don't know who you're talking about.
I do have a hunch about who you're talking about. And I also see that even in the past few days since we've been here, we're seeing that kind of violence. So I wonder, my next question was actually about connecting it to the present. It's not just an intimate story of two people. It's not just a historical look at a literary figure and a recent crime, but it is Alex, Salman, Eliza, so relevant today. And how have the three of you talked about this?
But I think we have come to understand that. When you're making the film, you're making the film.
Right.
And then the world does what it does. And sometimes the two things run into each other. I'm now beginning to think that maybe the film is here at a kind of apposite moment. That maybe all of us now are feeling the risk of violence. All of us are feeling that danger is just around the corner. And maybe this one experience can be a way for people watching the film to think about these larger things. I don't know, but it just feels as if it's a good moment for a film like this to be out there.
I think that's right, because I think I don't even mind saying, Salman or Eliza, that even the notion of presenting the film today and the steps that we've taken, the measures that we've taken, so that we can all have a safe, comfortable experience, grappling with something that you've endured and something that we're, speaking for myself, anxious about. and yet somehow the film helps us kind of work through it to a certain extent, even though it doesn't relieve the pressure or the stress, but it helps us think about it maybe a little differently.
Well, this is what art is for, isn't it? You know, it's to help us think, to help us understand, and to help us feel, and to help, you know, hopefully. I mean, I really think, as I said, I think the line is still in the film, is when I say it's not just about me. And I really think it's not just about me. I think it's about a larger thing, of which this is an example. Violence is that thing. Violence unleashed by the unscrupulous, using the ignorant to attack what is we all see around us, which is to attack culture. You know, I really believe that for the authoritarian, culture is the enemy. Culture understood in a very broad sense, whether that's journalism or universities or music or writing, you know, the broadest understanding of the world of culture. The uncultured and ignorant and tyrannical don't like it. And they take steps against it, which we see every day. So I know, I'll stop talking.
So I just want to pick up a little bit on what Salman was saying, because I do think, again, we're laboring on this film for some time, and I do feel that the film is coming at a moment where it's intersecting with what is going on all around us in a powerful way. Salman took sort of the larger themes that I think are terribly important for us all to invest in. I also think that the momentum of the story, going from an act of hate to a place of love, and along the way, Salman never loses his sense of righteousness and principles. That is a terribly important thing for us at this moment too, because while we're faced with, you know, the growing momentum of authoritarian rule, and we wake up every day to the horror in the news, and it's important that we continue to embrace our humanity, to love each other, and to continue to achieve that kind of intimacy that's so important to who we are as human beings, even as we face this larger political challenge.
One of the things I'd just like to say is that I think on that day of the attack, what I felt is that I experienced almost simultaneously the worst side of human nature, violence led by ignorance, induced by the irresponsible. And on the other hand, the best side of human nature, because the first people who saved my life were the audience. You know, if the audience had not jumped up on stage and jumped on him, we wouldn't be having this chat. You know, so you see human nature, and here are people rushing to defend me against an ideologically driven man with a knife. And yet they were willing to do that, to risk themselves in order to save me. And so we are that too. We are that too.
My last question as we wrap up. Eliza, I'm going to you, if you'll allow. We've had meetings ahead of this screening. Salman has leaned into the conversation about how to do this safely and securely. He maintains a sense of humor that is almost like astonishing and shocking at times in the movie, but also such a great relief for us as we're watching this movie. It's almost not fair to ask you this because you're standing next to him, but tell us something about Salman. Salman, how is he able to maintain, not only to lean into something that's probably so uncomfortable, but also maintain this beautiful sense of humor about it?
I mean, he is right next to me, but I'll try to answer for him. I mean, I think, you know, this is, you know, something you're born with, that you have this capacity for humor, and someone has such a verve and such a vibrancy about, you know, kind of every aspect of being fully alive. And I think that's something that I also loved about what Alex has shown about our relationship and about Salman, is being fully alive when you are being threatened as not being human, that your humanity stays present with you at all moments. And so I don't know if he really believes in miracles yet. I'm working on it with him. But I feel as though it's been miraculous and astonishing to watch him persevere, to watch him, fight for his life, and then, write a collection of short stories that came out. It's a real joy for me to, stand next to him and to, keep going and get up, and so he's amazing.
This is a completely objective judgment.
Well,
I'm gonna invoice him later.
yeah. Alex, Salman, Eliza, we really appreciate your time being here. Let me just say one thing before you offer such another generous round of applause. If you don't mind, and you'll understand, we're going to let our guests leave first.